Case, and I'll be your host on this amazing journey as we attempt to help you get the most out of your life. It's such a cliche, it really is, but I can't believe how time flies. We are at the tail end of the Huntsman World Senior Games. It's Thursday night. We're just over 2 days away of competition, full of competition, of ending the games and wrapping them up for this year. But man, we have stuffed a lot into these last 2 weeks, 40 different sports, 36 different countries. And I am super excited to announce that we broke our registration record. Last year, we set a record with 12,034 total registrations. And just yesterday, we surpassed that number. We reached 12,050. Now, we won't have an official number until the games are over, but it is official that we are over last year's number, and I think that is worthy of a celebration. Joining me in our studio today is my partner, my wife of 30 years now, Mindy. Mindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm always happy to be here. It's so fun.
Well, it's been a great 2 weeks, and we've certainly enjoyed ourselves. And you, over the past, man, we've been at this for quite a while.
Yeah.
This is our 19th games
Right.
that we've been running, the Huntsman World Senior Games. And over the past 19 years, you've done a million different jobs. You've been a volunteer and helped out in just a wide variety of different ways. But this year you had a couple of unique opportunities, and I want to talk a little bit about a couple of those things. This year you've served as what we call our Director of International Hospitality. It's a volunteer position, but you've had some really unique opportunities with some of our international athletes. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I love volunteering for the Huntsman World Senior Games. Every year is something new and exciting and different. And this year I was put in charge of international hospitality, as you said. And it basically just entails anybody that we hear of that's coming to the games from another country that possibly has a language barrier or needs some help. We try to locate translators, try to make it so they know that we have transportation that will take them to and from their events for free, which is unheard of at other games.
It's a big deal.
It is.
Especially if you're brand new in the area. And it's not only available for international athletes, it's available to anybody. All the athletes can take advantage of it. But coming in as an international athlete, somebody who's not familiar with the area, especially first-time athletes, knowing that you're going to be able to get to and from your hotel to your venue is a big deal.
Yeah, it's so great. And, we've been international. You take us on international trips for the games as recruiting, so we can also experience what it's like when you're international. Like, what is it like when you come into a new country where you don't know the language and you're trying to find your way around? And I just love being able to meet these new people, even if I don't speak their language, which is a lot of times the case. This year, it happened to be that I did speak the language of one of our great athletes, Jose. He had heard about us in Cleveland. Well, let me back up. I am in charge of two things, which I know we're going to be talking about.
We're going to talk about both of them.
One thing, a couple months ago, you sent out an email to all the 12,000 plus athletes and said if you would like to write a letter to your sport, you could write a dear letter. Dear sport.
Dear sport.
Dear sport, excuse me, a dear sport letter. So we had lots of people respond to that with just like upbeat, wonderful, heartfelt. Some of them have overcome pretty big traumas to get where they are in the games. And some of them have done it their whole life without stopping. Some of them did it, then stopped, and then came back to it. And a lot of our athletes just never competed, like your mom, never competed growing up. And then at 60, 65, take up this new sport. So they sent in some letters. We read through. We found the ones that just like were the cream of the crop and thought, okay, we need to do something with these. And so I, from then, was charged with contacting them, asking them if they'd feel comfortable coming into the studio and reading that. And then I go out to their event that they've just read about and get the footage of it. And we're going to make a little package out of it, promo or marketing or however we're going to plug it in.
We'll use it in a variety of different ways.
Yeah. Anyway, one of these Dear Sports writers was Jose, and he wrote this heartfelt letter about track and field and the 5K, that's his sport. And so it's just a heartfelt letter. And I said, hey, how would you feel in an email? I said, hey, how would you feel about coming in and reading for us? And he said, well, that would be great, except there's a language barrier. I don't really speak English. And so then I started thinking, Jose, I kind of know that sort of name. So I said, where are you from? Where's your country? he said, I'm a Brazilian. I'm coming in from Sao Paulo, a city close to Sao Paulo, and I just don't speak English very well. And it just so happens that Kyle and I both speak Portuguese.
We
So then I
do.
was thrilled. I had a little bit of happiness in my heart. And I'm like, hey, we can, from then on, I started speaking in Portuguese and said, why don't you come to the studio and read it? We can put subtitles on. I picked him up the very first Sunday of check-in of the games. I found him at the Dixie Center. Oh my gosh, it was just like instant friendship. He's just so lovable and just so loving,
Just gracious and grateful.
gracious and grateful.
And excited to be able to compete and
Yeah.
participate and to be here for the very first time.
Yeah,
Never been to St.
that's
George
what I love
before.
about it is he had heard about us in Cleveland and said, you know what, I'm going to come there. He had originally had his niece that was going to come with him that speaks English. Her visa didn't come through. So he said, I'm just going to come alone. So a first year here, 76, is he 76?
I think so.
He's
I think
over
so.
75. Anyway, he came here all on his own and I was just like, hey, and I brought him in and then he did his reading and then I said, why don't you be our cauldron lighter? Because he was dressed in his Brazil. Everything was logoed with Brazil. And I'm like, it's kind of fun to get an international flair when you're here. So that night I grabbed some dinner with him, took him straight from the studio to the cauldron lighting. A lot of people don't know, like they show up and play their sport and don't know there are a lot of extracurriculars here. Like
Yeah.
the cauldron lighting is so fun. We have entertainment on that first Sunday night and we all get to hold the torch, pass it along to each athlete. And then the final one gets to light the cauldron. So he got to do that. Meanwhile, we're just talking a mile a minute in Portuguese and it was so fun. And then throughout the week, I was doing some other things with the VIPs and I invited him to go to Zion. I invited him to go to Snow Canyon because when you're here and if you don't have a car, you got to get out and see. Like part of the draw of St. George is the beauty. We have 5 national parks really close. We have Snow Canyon, which is just our backyard. We love Snow Canyon and to share it with these people. Like we go there all the time, but one of the highlights of my year is to take these people around St. George to Snow Canyon to Zion and see it through a first timer's eyes is just humbling at the beauty that surrounds us. And it's worth making the trek here. So that was one of my international flares. Do you want me to go on or do you want to?
Yeah. I mean, Jose has been just a perfect example, I think, of what the games are about. You said he came on his own. He didn't know a lot about the area, didn't know a lot about the games, and now he's able to go home with this great experience, this great story, not only of competition, but of these other extracurricular things that have gone on. And I think we've kind of got a lifetime fan there.
Yeah, I do too. And there's a lot of other Brazilian teams that come here too. And those teams, we really welcome them. It's those individual sports where I'm like, it's a little lonely if you're just going to your hotel. I told him about our Friendship Festival. He came to the Friendship Festival all 3 nights of that first week he was here. He came to opening ceremonies. He just
took advantage of the
he
opportunities
really did.
as they were presented to him. And for our athletes and really for the community, there are so many things that are available. He was one of our international athletes that came. We also had a delegation from China. Talk a little bit about that and your experience there.
So another one of our volleyball referees is Chinese, and he lives in the U.S. and he has contacts there in China. So he has rounded up a bunch of Chinese doctors, 2 ER doctors, 1 orthopedic surgeon, and then a college professor. And they came here this year on their own dime, show up the day of Sunday and say, we're here, put us to work for these 2 weeks. And
just to volunteer.
granted, these doctors are probably in their early 30s. They are not very old. And so they're not athletes, but they're like, we want to volunteer, put us to work. And they just come to the Dixie Center and say, where can we go? And we've had them help us with our health screenings. They've helped in any way possible. And it's just so humbling that so many people want to be involved. And I can see why. It's amazing. Yeah. I love it. But it's fun to see other people catch the spirit of the games and just like welcome our athletes. And these Chinese delegation have opened their arms and welcomed these athletes too. And found out about them and a little language barrier, but they're just so willing to serve that it just is marvelous in my opinion.
And it does go both ways for sure. The athletes get to interact and connect, and the volunteers, and in this case, the Chinese delegation that acted as volunteers, get to have that same opportunity. And they have been so helpful. They've just been willing. And you think about, we talk a lot about volunteers at the games because they're so important. They're just crucial to what we do. We can't do what we do
And
without
we have about
volunteers.
how many?
Almost, yeah,
2,500?
yeah, 2,500, about
That's a lot.
3,000 total volunteers. And you said you used the word humbling, but it's so true. These volunteers came all the way from China. They flew all the way from China to be a part of fostering worldwide peace, health, and
That's
friendship.
exactly right.
They're a perfect example of what that is all about. And again, they've just been so helpful and in a variety of different ways. Everything from greeting people, welcoming people at the concert and celebration, the opening ceremonies, all the way up to, I know that one of the doctors, the orthopedic surgeon that you talked about, he was actually able to help diagnose a pretty significant Achilles tendon tear. He just happened to be in the right place at the right
Wow.
time. And he knew right away what it was. They had an ultrasound machine at the health screenings that they used on the Achilles tear. He could tell right what it was. He knew not only how to diagnose it, but was able to say, hey, you've got to get some help with this, get it taken care of within a week. And so the athlete knew that they couldn't wait on it.
Yeah, it wasn't just
And
like,
so-
I'll just take a Tylenol and play tomorrow.
Right. So they were able to, finish out the week not playing, but supporting their team, knowing that they had to go home on the weekend and get it taken care of right
Oh, I
away.
didn't know that
and he was
story.
able to just be, again, in the right place at the right time.
That
and make
happens a
difference.
lot with the games. There are people, not just the Chinese delegation, but I love the feature stories that come from the games. I
Yeah.
love to see people that might not medal, but just have this. One of our good friends, my good friend from high school, my brother's good friend from high school. I follow him on Facebook. I know he's a runner. He was a runner in high school. He had a pacemaker put in July of this year, the end of July.
Yeah, he had some surprising heart issues
And all
that
of
he
a
didn't
sudden,
know
I'm
anything
walking
about.
at the track and field, and I'm like, "Hey, Chet!" And he had his badge on, and it had the 1 year, his first year here. I'm like, "Are you even able?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm feeling good." He did the 5K, he did the 10K, he did all the distance, he got medals, and so these feature stories that just pop up of like people that are inspirational that
Yeah.
I love to hear about. So
And they come from all over the world. You talked about, and it's fun because a lot of times these connections just are random, but these athletes come from everywhere. You're talking about Brazil, from China that you've interacted with. And then also you turn around and there's somebody from your hometown,
Yeah.
right? From
Yeah.
your own high school.
my hometown of Delta, Utah, little old Delta. So
And it's just so fun to make these connections and others. I want to talk a little bit more about this Dear Sport opportunity.
Okay.
You kind of set the
Yes.
groundwork. We did invite our athletes to write a letter to their sport. Many of them wrote love letters to the sport.
They did.
Some of them are like, yeah, I'm contemplating another partner kind of letters as well. But you've had an opportunity to visit with, we had 11 athletes that we chose to feature, and you've had the chance to visit with all of them. We can't cover all of them. We don't have
No.
time to do all of them, but a couple that stand out to you.
Okay, so the very first one that I did was Joe Gray. He's now been on our podcast.
Joe was last week's podcast.
Yes.
If you're paying attention, if you're a longtime fan, you would have heard that. If not, you ought to go back and listen to Joe's podcast.
Yeah, he showed up to read his letter to softball, and it was written so clever and cute that his sport is softball, baseball growing up, and softball, all through and through, baseball, softball. He was taking his dog on a walk one day, and he saw somebody building this strange court that didn't look like a tennis court, but it couldn't have been a racquetball court because it was outside. Asked around, and it had a really weird name, and it was pickleball.
Right.
So the next week when it got done, he went and checked it out. And so he writes his letter as if he's kind of like cheating on softball.
Softball, right.
So he's like, "I'm sorry, softball. It's so hard." And he just it's so cute because now he loves pickleball. And it's good. We all can have different sports here. I'm still finding my sport, but I'm participating in all of it, as many as I can.
Yeah.
Until I find maybe the right match, or maybe I'll just hop around and give them all a whirl. And that it should be very helpful for anybody who's scared to sign up for the games, because people say, "What's your sport? What you're an athlete?" And I say I use that term very loosely because I don't consider myself an athlete, but I like to be able to go to the competition and
Try
say I
new
did
things,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Joe has been able to do that with his lifelong sport of softball, but also to be introduced to pickleball. And just had a lot of fun with it. We've had a lot of fun with him,
Yeah,
getting to know him a
so
little
much
bit.
fun,
Who
yeah.
else have you met?
So I met a gal today, Kelly, who no, it wasn't Kelly. It was, I'm forgetting her name. She was the last one of the day. She was the BYU fan. Anyway, she came here and was talking about how she was in a tragic car accident. Nobody passed away, but she was in a car accident when she was young and just really messed up her leg and was in traction for 2 months, and then just worked and worked and worked her way back. And now she's a multi-sport athlete, and she's done.
What an inspiring story.
Yeah, that was inspiring, really inspiring, because she stuck with sports even when it was hard.
Yeah.
So,
And so many of our athletes do, as you said, overcome difficulties, hardships, traumas. And that's the beauty of sport in general. And it's one of the most amazing things,
I remember her name
believe.
is Margie. Sorry, Margie, wherever you are.
Margie. But it is one of the most amazing things about the Huntsman World Senior Games. And you can find these stories everywhere that you go. You walk into a pickleball arena, a basketball court,
You go to
volleyball.
Walmart. They're shopping at Walmart. If you see one there and they have a
Exactly.
game shirt on, the first thing I do is say, "Hey, where are you from? What's your sport? Welcome."
And you're going to hear an amazing story.
Yeah.
An amazing story. These athletes come from everywhere, from all walks of life, from a variety of different backgrounds and different levels of experience within their own sport. But they all bring a unique story and a unique energy, and just it's an incredible opportunity to interact with them. And so the local community, as you're out and about, again, shopping, hitting the restaurants, doing whatever you do when you run into these athletes, make sure you take the opportunity
They are
to get to know
friendly
them.
as can be.
Yeah.
They are happy. If you say, "Hey, where are you from?" I mean, I'll be dressed in my normal clothes. They don't even know I have any affiliation with the game. But if I say, "Hey, I see you're wearing a Huntsman's World Senior Games shirt," or "You have your badge," or "You have your medal, tell me about yourself," they will just talk and tell you their story, and it's so fun to hear. And they come from all around, so it's not just like St. George. Not that we don't welcome the St. George athletes, but we really have an international flair, and it shows. And you can go out in the community and see that. I wanted to touch base on one more thing with you. When we took the Chinese delegation of doctors, 2 of them were ER doctors, one's the orthopedic surgeon. We happen to know the chief of medicine at our IH hospital here. And so we asked him if we could do a tour, and he said, sure. So he came and took us on a personal tour, just these 3 doctors with our Patrick Carroll is his name, walked these guys through the hospital. And I mean, it was like a bridge coming right there of like, they do one thing. They talked about some of the differences in Chinese medicine and differences in our medicine, and how, what works for you, what works for us. And it really like bridged the friendship part of our health piece and friendship of like these 2 cultures coming together. I'm like, it was special. I was just sitting back listening because I know nothing about the medical world, but I could feel that like they were respectful to each other, but they were also taking notes to see, okay, how can we improve? And
I understand that the Chinese doctors really liked the break room that we have here in our hospital.
The lounge, the doctor's lounge. And that's one thing they said, we do not have this. Like we walked in and there's a football game on and free food and drink. And so I think, they did like that. Patrick said, just have your boss call me and I'll fix that for you.
You talk about peace, health, and friendship, and how that is a perfect example. Again, kind of a unique, not one that you would expect, but a unique opportunity to connect over health and understand one another, build that bridge. We're never going to achieve world peace without understanding one another.
Exactly.
And then, of course, you've got the friendship aspect of it as well.
And that's what I love. Like countries will come here when we've had a little bit of conflict government-wise.
Yeah.
And they will hug me or hug
Set
you.
the politics aside.
They say, thank you for noticing that the people don't always represent the politics. And we want to be a part of this, and we want to reach out and be brothers and sisters with the rest of the world. And so don't judge us on maybe what's going on only in the politics, because it's just
at
amazing.
the end of the day, we have way more that unites us than divides us. And we see that day after day during these full 2 weeks of the Huntsman World Senior Games. Speaking of which, as I said, we're almost at the end. We got just a couple of minutes, but what's a favorite memory?
Okay, so we're almost at the end of the podcast.
Yes.
Okay, I'm loving all of this year. Like we did a photo shoot up at Snow Canyon with some of our athletes that was just remarkable. They didn't know each other. They all became friends. And there we go, just having friends up in Snow Canyon with a beautiful photo shoot, which pictures are to come. I have to say one more thing. Our little grandson, Lincoln,
Yes.
he is one of your podcast's biggest fans. He listens to it weekly, and he talks about it with his mom and dad about Papa and his podcast. So I told him when I saw him this week, I'm like, Lincoln, I'm going to give you a shout out. So I had to shout out our number one fan, Lincoln.
He is our number one subscriber. So one of my favorite memories, if I could share that in the couple of minutes that we have left, there's so many, it's just 2 weeks of day after day after day of amazing experience, amazing opportunity. So it's kind of hard to narrow it down to a very favorite moment, but just a couple of things that stand out to me. You mentioned the cauldron lighting ceremony. That's become a tradition here at the games. There really is something special that night. There's something special in the air. It's the beginning of the games. The competitions have not yet started. It's our first Sunday. We do that. That day is our check-in day. We checked in over 3,000 athletes that day, so it's a very busy day. There's a lot going on. We do the endurance awards. We have everything that's going on, but we also kick things off with the cauldron lighting ceremony, and there's something really cool about being able to hold that torch.
Yeah.
And we do a relay. The athletes participate in a relay, and so it's handed from one athlete to the next.
Not a running relay.
No, not a running relay.
They're just standing in a line,
right.
and we carefully hand that torch.
But I would say there was
easily,
what, a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
I mean, it winds its way through the lawn, and then it makes its way over to the cauldron. And to watch the faces light up, the smiles, and knowing that they're part of something special and they're helping to kick it off is just really amazing. And Mindy, thank you for joining us. That's
Always
about all the
happy to do
time
it.
that we have to visit with you today. But again, so many things. As I said at the beginning of the show, the games are really winding down, but it's not over yet. There's still an opportunity. If you haven't been out to see these athletes participate, compete in their sport, whether it's on the softball diamonds, the pickleball courts, the volleyball courts, it doesn't matter. Let me personally invite you to do so. You will not be disappointed. You're not going to be disappointed in the level of competition. And in fact, you just might be inspired enough to give the games a try for yourself next year. I'm going to live in the moment and savor these next couple of days. But if you want to plan ahead, team registration for the 2026 Huntsman World Senior Games will open on January 1st, and individual registration will open on March 1st. And the games next year for 2026 will run from October 5th through the 17th. So put that on your calendar and be prepared for that. Remember to tune in live next and every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on Mountain Time on AM 1450 or FM 93.1 for the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life. We take this live show and turn it into a podcast, and you can subscribe and listen anywhere that you find your favorite podcasts. If you're listening by podcast or watching by podcast, take a moment and give us a rating and write a quick review. That can really help us spread the word. You can also find this and previous shows right on our website. That is seniorgames.net. So check that out. Today's inspirational thought comes from the great Vince Lombardi, who once said, "It's not whether you get knocked down, it's whether you get up." I like that. Until next Thursday, stay active.